speaker today and I have known one another for probably 3 or 4 years. I got to know Will when he was part of the San Francisco for the Blind, the Lighthouse, the San Francisco Lighthouse leadership team 3 or 4 years ago, and have gotten to know him better since. And with his departure and him arriving at Be My Eyes, it's been wonderful to be able to work with him and the Be My Eyes team. As many of you are probably aware, we've been a part of the Be My Eyes platform for almost a year now, and it has been wonderful to be able to provide that level of support to ACB members, but frankly, folks from around the blind community that are interfacing with Be My Eyes. So over the last roughly year or so, you all have noticed that we have needed to really figure out and adapt to the virtual world and how to communicate, how to engage with the membership and the broader blind community. And as an example, this morning we had a breakout that dealt with that issue and the tremendous support that ACB Radio has lent to us elevating our voice to other channels within our community. Invited Will to come and be with us today to talk a little bit about the importance of elevating one's voice over different platforms, doing it in different ways. The importance of video. Yes, many of us cannot see, but we're not the only audience that often visits the American Council of the Blind webpage, website, or our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other platforms. And so the importance of video, what it means to those audiences. There's an enormous audience that is low vision, of which video is of great import. So Will has a podcast that he does with Be My Eyes. He also has various side projects. I listened to him interview on one of his podcasts last year, the iconic skateboard superstar Tony Hawk, which is pretty cool, Will. Had to be a cool opportunity. I'm envious. And he's done a bunch of other things, and he's got some interesting perspectives as an individual who is blind, that is in communications and all about figuring out how to do outreach to our community. And so with that, I am very pleased to introduce the Vice President for Community at Be My Eyes from Los Angeles, California, Will Butler. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. Really, really pleased to be here. And I believe the last time we saw each other was here in Los Angeles.
It was before the world sort of went dark for a while.
It was just about 1 year ago.
It was.
Yeah. Well, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but we will have a chance to do some questions, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There will be a few minutes set aside depending upon your presentation. Yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I have a whole bunch of stuff I'd love to talk about and get through, but it's also really, really important to me that I'm answering, questions that are relevant to people and bringing that value that everyone's always talking about to the folks who are listening. And I know there's a lot of people on the call, and I want to engage. So I'm going to try to get through my spiel with plenty of time for questions. So as you're listening, feel free to take a mental note of something that might interest you, because I'm happy to dive deeper into any of the topics that I go into today. And with that, thank you to the ACB. It's a great weekend, and it's great to hear all the ambitions on display today and all the exciting new projects that are underway. I certainly, every time there's a new announcement from ACB, whether it's about audio description or some of the new podcasts and projects that you've been launching, I'm very excited, and I read with great anticipation the dots and dashes every week, and you know, I think sometimes as professionals who send out communications, you know, folks like me and people on my team who send out email newsletters and those sorts of things, we sort of feel like we're sending them out into the abyss. And so I definitely like to take the opportunity anytime I can to remind folks that when you hit the send button, those efforts are not in vain. Many people are reading these communications that we send out, and today more than ever. So a little bit just about to intro Eric, thank you so much for the introduction. And again, my name is Will Butler. My title is VP of Community at the Be My Eyes app. Be My Eyes is a wonderful company and a mobile application. If none of you, if any of you don't have the app, please download it. It's a free sighted assistance app. And we are based, our team is based all around the world. So we have offices in Denmark and in California, as well as little outposts around the Midwest and all over the United States. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Be My Eyes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where I came from and sort of how I'm viewing the media and communications landscape today. Being that I used to work at the Lighthouse for the Blind in San Francisco, so I have some experience in the nonprofit realm. And then I also have a background in journalism, so I have gotten a peek into sort of what the media landscape, evolving media landscape is like. But first, I just want to elaborate a bit more on what Eric was talking about ACB on Be My Eyes. For those that don't know, you know, many people have thought of Be My Eyes over the years, rightly so, as a volunteer community. And Be My Eyes was founded 6 years ago on a very simple principle, which is that you should be able to overcome an accessibility barrier with a pair of eyes whenever you needed it, not have to wait for someone to show up at your house or for your family member to be available. Our founder, Hans, in Denmark, came up with this idea. He himself is legally blind. He says hello to everyone, by the way. And he came up with this idea of, I should be able to push a button and have a pair of eyes at my disposal. You know, personally, our whole executive team believes that sight should be free and that it's not something you should have to pay for. And so we've worked very hard to make sure that the volunteer network is you know, always available and always quick to answer. Our algorithms, you know, work behind the scenes when you push the button on the Be My Eyes app to reach a volunteer in just a matter of seconds. We serve 185 languages today, and across all of those 185 languages, our average connection time to a volunteer is less than 30 seconds. In English, you're going to find it, if you speak English, it's even less, like most of the time in the single digits. So you're just waiting literally a few seconds for a pair of eyes, as opposed to 10, 20 years ago, when you needed a pair of eyes, it might take days, hours, weeks, months to have someone available to read you the things that you wanted read. So that is what everyone, you know, in our community is familiar with about Be My Eyes, about sort of the Be My Eyes story. But the sort of next chapter that we're in now that folks aren't as familiar with is our investment in specialized help services. So a couple of years ago, we sat down with Microsoft and to address a problem, which was that, you know, we had users making Be My Eyes calls for Microsoft issues, and Microsoft had a help desk that wanted to help people with Be My Eyes issues. And Microsoft wasn't getting a chance to see how their products were working for blind and low vision people once they were out in the wild. They could do user testing before things were released, but it was a totally different matter altogether to actually see what the real life issues were. So we asked Microsoft if they would like us to route calls into their call center, and that was the beginning of specialized help. So today you can call Microsoft 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the Be My Eyes app, directly from within the Be My Eyes app, to make a Be My Eyes call and connect very quickly with someone who is trained to help you solve your problem. So from there, we quickly had kind of a chain of other companies join. Google joined shortly after Microsoft. And today we have a whole sort of hub on the Be My Eyes service of providers. I'll talk a little bit more later on about Be My Eyes and happy to answer any questions about Be My Eyes. But that's not exactly why we're here today. I wanted to talk about what ACB is doing on Be My Eyes, because during this, during the pandemic time, when I was sitting back and watching all of the doors closing of all of the great blindness organizations around the country, and I thought to myself, blindness organizations need to not lose that connection with the average consumer who can just walk in the door, walk up to the front desk and ask a question, or give a call. And so we reached out to blindness organizations around the country and around the world, and we invited them to join the Be My Eyes platform at no charge. This is a service that we're granting specifically to blindness organizations that have a mission to serve the blind and low vision community. And what that allows is an official presence for any blindness organization in the Be My Eyes app, along with a video call button and a calling feature that allows you to be available to any Be My Eyes app user during any hours of the day that you choose. So ACB, about a year ago now, really embraced this initiative and joined the Be My Eyes service, and now has a team of folks at the central ACB offices answering Be My Eyes calls 5 hours a day now, 5 days a week, to answer any questions that any member may have, just high level about ACB and about membership and about resources. And it's been an incredible way, not only for ACB just to have a profile and a brand presence in the community, but also to just increase that feeling of connectivity that consumers, that the end user, that the average blind person feels with ACB. I would love to chat a little bit about that later, but it's just one example of how there are so many new channels now where you can connect directly with those you're trying to serve. So I want to just briefly go back and give a little context about who I am and sort of where I came from. I did not grow up as a blind person. I didn't identify with even low vision, even though I was very much low vision as a young kid. I didn't identify with my struggles in classes. I didn't identify with the fact that I had trouble reading sheet music on the piano. It wasn't until I was in my teen years that I actually started to lose vision in a way that was substantial. But I didn't identify with it at all. And so I didn't know anyone who was blind. I wasn't familiar with anyone who was even identified as visually impaired. It was all very foreign to me. And then when I was 19 and I became legally blind due to retinal detachment in my good eye at that point, my one good eye, I really had no footing underneath me. I really had no resources. My doctors didn't, everyone is familiar with this story, right? Anyone who's listening to me talking right now knows what it feels like to walk out of a doctor's office and feel like you maybe didn't necessarily get what you needed, but you don't know what you need, right? And, even in those days, it was just about 12 or 13 years ago now, even in 2008 or 9, log on to the internet, it was a different internet than it is now. There were no blind influencers, certainly not. There were no blind YouTubers with millions of followers. There weren't really even much in the way of podcasts about blindness, at least nothing that you could find if you weren't sort of an insider, if you didn't already have an in with the community. The only real online resources to speak of at that time to the average, layperson Googling around for issues about blindness was newsletters and newsletter archives. And, newsletters are still an effective way of communicating, but it was only an absolute seed of what we have today. Um, Today is a completely different landscape. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I want to answer any questions that might exist about that. But before getting into that, I came into my own, kind of experience of blindness. Took me 4 years to start using a cane. I had a lot of let's say, interesting situations in that period of time. I was stopped at Border Patrol because I looked suspicious. Uh, I probably looked like I was intoxicated, or and this sort of there's just so many examples of our of how we behave when we're trying to fit in with others, when we're trying to hide our vision. As a young person without a cane, without a dog, I was absolutely just trying to fit in with the stereotype of what I thought a young, quote unquote, able-bodied person should look like. And so it was a struggle. It was really a challenge. And finally, when I picked up the cane in 2012, everything just cracked open. Everything changed. Suddenly, things weren't so awkward at work anymore. People didn't, side eye me and try to figure out what was wrong with me. Why was I walking so slowly in that one dark corner of the office? Why did I reach out to the over the tip jar at the cash register and drop the coins right onto the counter? Strange little things like that had no explanation when I wasn't identifying myself as visually impaired. But then suddenly, with the cane in my hand, everything fell into place. And my career took off as well. I started writing more. I had more confidence to go out in journalistic ventures and interview sources and be comfortable with the fact that I couldn't see everything. And I was pitching to major news outlets. And pretty soon I was writing for publications that you know the names of, like New York Times and New Yorker and Atlantic. And I was writing, and not just about blindness, but about technology and culture. It was really quite a wonderful time for a young person coming into their own. And I attribute it very much to my willingness to embrace my blindness. But at the same time, it wasn't the whole picture. I still had so many parts of my life that I hadn't figured out yet. And without kind of a support community online that I could look to in the evenings when I got home, from work, and skim through, information and resources, and joke around with other people who were going through what I was going through, it really wasn't a full picture of community or of options of how to live my life. So around this time, I was lucky because I ran into the folks at the Lighthouse for the Blind in San Francisco. And I came to work there in 2015 during a big shift at the Lighthouse and a move to a new headquarters. And I spent 3 or 4 years there at the Lighthouse. And over the course of, I could give a whole talk about what I learned at the Lighthouse, but to sum it all up, I really feel like I sort of went back to college in a lot of ways. I had just gotten out of college, but I feel like I went back and I went to sort of to blind school in some sense. It was incredible, all that I learned. Just about, not so much about the, how to, operate a piece of technology, or how to, measure, the right length of a cane, but more things about attitude and your bearing in the world and your place in the world. And seeing, coming to work with 75 or so different blind people every day, and seeing the myriad diversity of approaches to blindness, and how, well, some people behave like this and some people behave like this. And you know what? everybody's approach to blindness is valid and good and works for them. And I really can't emphasize enough how valuable it was for me to be exposed to that many different perspectives. And so I think, fast forwarding a little bit today, where I run community and communications and social media and brand for Be My Eyes, which is this vast blindness community that spans 175 countries. I'm thinking about what is the universal way? What is the way to connect with a blind, a visually impaired, or an ally, consumer, app user, whoever it is. It's not limited simply to people who identify as blind or low vision. It could be anyone around them, anyone in their family, anyone on the periphery, or just simply someone who's an ally. Because let's not forget that of our 5 million, sighted app users, many of those people will also experience visual impairments. In fact, a higher percentage than even the number of users we have already. So it's really important that we're speaking to everyone when we speak about issues of blindness, because it really truly does affect everyone. And even if you don't become blind, you're going to have someone in your life who is, and you're going to need to know how to treat them, how to respect them, how to give them autonomy, how to give them support. So I really can't emphasize enough how important it is our communications are vast and diverse and speak to everyone. But what is that thing, right? What is that that universal way to communicate a message about blindness, and how do you do it at a mass scale when there's so many different ways to communicate? I mean, today there are more choices than ever when it comes to getting your message out there. A lot of people's minds first go to Facebook, right? And Facebook is really just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, I think Facebook probably represents only a small slice today of the communications that are happening in the community building that's happening on the internet. Just sort of speaking broadly, all of this applies equally to topics of blindness as it does to the mainstream community. But you have blind and visually impaired people now on TikTok. I don't know if anyone has ever explored TikTok as a social network. It's one of these brand new social networks that just came out the gate, in the last few years, very quickly rose to popularity. And you have dozens and dozens and dozens of blind and visually impaired people, many of whom are young people, on this app, making videos on a daily basis and connecting with hundreds of thousands and millions of people. I'm not exaggerating here when I can tell you that a 22-year-old on TikTok can make one video, and in a matter of hours, they can have reached more people than the ACB has reached over the course of that entire year or dozens of years. And I say that not to be sort of daunting, because I do realize that not every social media platform is right for every business. Personally, Be My Eyes doesn't even have a TikTok account, but it's important to understand how all of these different platforms and social networks are creating a constellation of communication and engagement around us so that we know what environment we're playing in. There's all these other platforms as well, and I'm not going to go into them today because it's a whole dissertation, but there's forums like Reddit, Instagram, which is very much owned by Facebook. There's Twitter, of course, where many of you are familiar. There's chatter constantly going on. And then all these splinter social medias now that are popping up. Things like Discord, which, believe it or not, is a hub for blind gamers. You have Clubhouse, which is the newest sort of audio-based social media, which just popped up just in the last year. I spent 6 hours on Clubhouse a couple of days ago talking to dozens and dozens of blind and visually impaired people about everything from what we think of blindness simulations all the way down to what's the right cane for a hiking trip. And so, like it or not, our community has splintered into a million separate parts. And all of these conversations are happening simultaneously. And there are rooms now, Zoom rooms, all of these things where people are talking. So you have two things going on here, which is that you have less control over the overarching narrative, but at the same time, you have a stronger word of mouth effect. So you have less control over the overarching narrative. You don't have the ability to press one button and send out a communication that's going to affect everyone. And yet, if you do something valuable, if you do something that makes a difference in people's lives, the word of mouth is going to spread hundreds of times faster than it ever did before. And that is regardless of what platform you're using to spread your message. So, simultaneously with this, we have the rise of voice technology, which is a really interesting sort of curveball in here. And that's, Alexa and podcasts and all these sorts of things. And that has an interesting effect, a level playing field effect as well, because we get to consume content the way that many people like to today. And we're very much a part of the mainstream. We have many apps bringing us in and making sure that their mainstream experiences are accessible. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, because it means that we can pull open the Kindle app, or we can pull open the Audible app, whatever it might be, and interact. We have, due to the wonderful work of ACB and others, we have streaming entertainment platforms adding audio description. Blind folks are allowed to participate in the mainstream in a way that they weren't before. And so I really want to emphasize that the role of, an organization, I think, like ACB, when it comes to putting out a podcast or just posting something on Facebook or trying a new media format, is really to sit back and think, what value can I add to someone's life? What can I say that's going to affect that 19-year-old in Iowa who just is experiencing a vision impairment for the first time? We're looking to create community here, and community is created through trust, which comes through vulnerability and honesty, right? And everyone now has a high quality microphone and a high quality camera in their pocket. And so, it's not about production value anymore. It's not about being polished or shiny or high end. It's about taking out your phone, hitting record, and sharing something that's honest and authentic and real with people, that you maybe struggled with once in your life, that's going to help people. And that is what is going to activate that word of mouth effect that's going to spread your message far and wide. And that's the thing that's going to strengthen communities for the long term. Now, I realize I've gone on and not left that much time for questions. It's amazing how time flies when you get me up on my soapbox. But I'd love to just sort of open it up and answer anything that may pop up in just the last couple of minutes here before we move on.
Thank you, Will. This is Dan Spoon, ACB president, and we'll have people raise their hands now for questions, and I'll get one in while people are raising their hands. So the theme of our DC Leadership Conference this year is fostering voice, choice, and community, and it just really resonated with your talk to us this afternoon. Where do you see communications going here in the next 5 years? It feels to me like the days of the pre-canned broadcast and people just being listening as opposed to interacting, that's the past, and the future is live and engagement. What are your thoughts in that area?
Well, a few things. I think, first of all, very much live. You said the word live. That's going to be important. People aren't going to be spending lots of time pre-recording things and releasing them. They may be archived as podcasts after the fact, but a lot is going to happen live. So invest in people who are good talkers. Invest in people who are dynamic and passionate. The other thing that's happening is it's a move toward the sort of personal brand, for lack of a better term, the move toward a focus on the individual. So on these social networks where people are talking with each other, it's going to be about personalities. An agency or an organization's communications are going to be reflected through personalities. And I really think that investing in people and personalities is going to be of a huge benefit to any organization that's trying to get the word out. The final thing I think is that it's not super important which platform you choose to post your things on. It's much more about thinking critically about the content you're putting out and thinking, how is this helping really keeping that, having that individual in your mind's eye of who you're trying to help when you're putting out your content, making sure it's authentic and vulnerable. To me, that is where this is all going. You know, I think podcasts are also, I don't want to take away from podcasts, because I should say, you know, we launched one podcast at Be My Eyes. We were very happy with it. So we launched a second. And this week I'm going to launch a third. So it's, we're investing heavily in podcasts. In fact, to sort of plug it, you know, this new thing we're working on is totally about humor. It's called Say My Meme. And it's going to be completely about describing memes for people who are blind or low vision. Because memes, you know, these little funny cartoons that are on the internet are really actually a cultural zeitgeist now, and they're a way that people communicate, but they're entirely visual. And so a podcast that might be sort of a fun, funny, casual, you know, inoffensive thing might actually be the deepest, most meaningful way that a potential member connects with your organization.
That's great. So Cindy, Donna, do we have any hands raised for questions?
Right now, there aren't any hands.
There are no.
I'm happy to sort of wrap it up. I know I'm over time now, but happy to answer any other questions, Dan or Eric, before I jump off. It's been great to be here this morning.
If I could jump in,
Please, Cindy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just would like to invite you, Will, to maybe touch base with me and see about doing a community event about Be My Eyes for ACB. And we, you know, been engaging with people in the blindness community for nearly a year now on a daily basis, and would love to partner with you on maybe bringing maybe focusing on different areas of Be My Eyes, such as specialized help or some other aspects of Be My Eyes, if you would like to do that. So
I would be thrilled. Absolutely. We've been so busy these past several months at Be My Eyes. I didn't even get a chance to share, but we launched Be My Eyes for Work, which is our new workplace accommodation software. So any of
that could be a presentation all in.
Right. It could be all in itself.
Yeah.
We're helping with COVID tests in the UK and in the US.
Exactly. So yeah, would love it.
Let's definitely do that.
That
and
sounds good.
Thank you so much, Cindy.
You bet.
And
Thank you.
Will, I want to learn more about the memes, because I'm telling you, everywhere you go, people talk about memes, and I know kind of what a meme is, but as a blind person, I haven't been able to enjoy them. So that's exciting.
We're launching a podcast just for you, Dan.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And bring everybody up to speed, and I guarantee you it's going to be a hoot.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Will. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, keep an eye out for Say My Meme. That's coming in the next week here.
Awesome.
Say My Meme. Yes.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to be with us. We really appreciate it.
Eric, thanks so much for inviting me. It really is an honor to talk to everyone. And please, everyone, just email me. My email address is will@bemyeyes.com. My inbox is flooded anyway. Just shoot me an email, will@bemyeyes.com. We'll figure out how to make Be My Eyes work for you. And I will give you, you know, personal advice on communications if you really want it. I love this community, and I'm happy to do whatever I can for everyone. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.